I still remember that day as vividly as if it happened yesterday. It was a Thursday afternoon in late October, right when the leaves in Cedar Ridge, Oregon, turned that burnt orange color that made the entire town look like it was set on fire. The air was crisp and the sky was gray, hanging heavy with that moody fall stillness that seems to blanket everything. My name is Tyler Carson, and I was in 10th grade at Cedar Ridge High when it happened, the lockdown that no one would ever forget. That morning started off as uneventful as any other. I dragged myself out of bed around 6:30 a.m., groggy and annoyed by my blaring alarm. My mom, Nancy Carson, was already in the kitchen cooking scrambled eggs and packing my lunch. My dad was on the early shift at the paper mill and had left by 5 a.m., so it was just the two of us. We didn't talk much, but I remember her giving me a weird look as I grabbed my backpack. "You feeling all right, Tyler?" she asked, brushing her hand over my forehead like she used to when I was a kid. "Yeah, just tired," I mumbled. In hindsight, maybe it was more than just tiredness. Maybe I sensed something. But at the time I didn't think much of it. School, everything seemed normal. First period was biology with Mr. Harding, and as usual, he droned on about mitosis and cell division while half the class stared blankly at the wall. Second period, English Lit, was better. We were reading Lord of the Flies, which suddenly feels way more relevant after what happened. Things got weird during fourth period. I had gym class, and we were in the middle of doing laps around the track when a loud, sharp tone blasted over the intercom system. Everyone froze. Then came the voice of Principal Riley, calm but firm. "Attention. This is a lockdown. This is not a drill. Please follow all lockdown procedures immediately." There was a half-second of silence before the entire class turned toward Coach Bailey. "Everyone inside now," she barked, her voice tighter than I'd ever heard it. We sprinted back into the gym building. Coach ushered us into the girls' locker room, where there were no windows and a thick steel door. I remember thinking how ironic it was that the room smelled like perfume and old sneakers while we were all on edge, some of us trembling. She turned off the lights and told us to sit against the walls. My heart was pounding. No one said a word for what felt like forever. I checked my phone, but there was no service. Just texts not sending, spinning endlessly in sending mode. That's when I heard something. A step. Not in the hallway, no, these were heavier. Like boots. And they were close. Someone else must have heard it too, because a girl named Marissa, sitting across from me, covered her mouth and started silently crying. Then there was a loud metallic clank, like something hitting the outside of the locker room door. Coach Bailey motioned for us to stay silent. We didn't move. The footsteps lingered for a minute, maybe two, then moved on. The silence that followed was worse. About 15 minutes passed, long enough for my legs to start cramping from how I was crouched. Just when I thought maybe it was over, we heard a scream echo from the direction of the cafeteria. It was blood-curdling. Boy's voice. High-pitched, desperate. Someone next to me whispered, "What if it's real?" No one answered. After what seemed like forever, the sound of sirens pierced the silence outside. We all flinched. Flashing lights came through the tiny crack beneath the locker room door. It was finally over. Or so we thought. It was another 20 minutes before the lockdown was officially lifted. An announcement told us to remain where we were until law enforcement escorted us out. When a police officer finally opened the door, I saw the look on Coach Bailey's face change from calm to shaken. That's when I knew something horrible had actually happened. They escorted us out in single file. The school hallways looked like something out of a war zone. Chairs were overturned, lockers left open. There was blood smeared on the floor leading toward the art room. One of the officers told us not to look, but I caught a glimpse of something red trailing into the hallway. Outside, news vans were already parked along the curb. Parents stood behind barricades, sobbing, yelling, trying to find their kids. I spotted my mom immediately. Her hair tied in a bun, face pale, screaming my name. When she saw me, she ran toward me, tears streaming down her cheeks. I hugged her, and for the first time since middle school, I cried in her arms in front of everyone. Later we found out what happened. The lockdown was triggered after a former student, Matthew Crane, who had dropped out the year before, somehow got onto campus with a weapon. He entered through a back door left unlocked near the cafeteria. No one knows exactly why he did it, but some say he had been bullied badly when he was still a student, and rumors suggested he had struggled with mental health issues that had gone untreated. He didn't shoot anyone, thank God, but he did injure 2 students and a teacher with a knife before he was apprehended by the school resource officer. The scream we heard. That was Logan Peters, a junior, who got cut on the arm trying to protect his girlfriend. We didn't have school for the next 5 days. Counselors were brought in. The media tried to turn it into a circus, and Principal Riley did her best to keep things quiet and respectful. But even now, years later, I can still hear that scream in my head. I still flinch when I hear the word lockdown. I graduated, went to college, and even got a job in another town, but Cedar Ridge High still haunts me. One thing that stuck with me was how fast everything changed. One moment I was annoyed about gym class, and the next I was hiding in a locker room, thinking I might die. It made me realize how fragile everything really is. How quickly your ordinary day can twist into a nightmare. A month later, I saw Logan at the grocery store. His arm was still bandaged. We nodded at each other but didn't say anything. There was an unspoken connection between us now. Between all of us who were there that day. It's like we became part of some invisible club, one no one wants to join but none of us can leave. I don't tell this story to scare people, but I do tell it so they understand. School lockdowns aren't just drills. Sometimes they're real. And when they are, you remember every second, every breath, every heartbeat that you thought might be your last. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. Never take an ordinary day for granted. And always take those drills seriously. Because one day it might not be a drill. And when that day comes, you'll wish you were ready. The school eventually installed better security, added metal detectors, and brought in more counselors full-time. They renamed the art wing after the teacher who had gotten injured defending her students, Mrs. Finley. She recovered, but she never came back to teach. Too much trauma, I guess. Sometimes I drive past the school when I'm back in town visiting family. It looks normal, almost peaceful. The trees still turn orange in October. The wind still whistles through the chain-link fences. But to me, and to everyone who was there that day, it will always carry a shadow. Cedar Ridge High might be a small-town school, but on that day, it became the center of something dark. Something that lives in the back of my mind. And though time has passed, the feeling hasn't. That's the thing about horror in real life, it doesn't jump.